I'm Janet Harvey, and I am the CEO of an organization called Invite Change. And we have a 27-year history in the professional coaching field. And I feel very strongly about the questions of racial equity. I have my entire life, and especially so now. As an organization, we've been committed to bringing people of color into the field of professional coaching, and it just wasn't big enough. There's so much work to be done. And I know that coaching can amplify the results that people have in their lives. It's time we turned our attention to the social causes that are creating so much suffering in our planet. And that's a lot of the drive behind the Racial Equity Forum for me.
Absolutely. So I am Zakia Larry. I'm very fortunate to be part of the creation team of both the Racial Equity Forum and the 2020 Global Leaders Conference. So Janet and I here are partner in do-gooding, and I am a media and crisis expert. And so co-creating the Racial Equity Forum alongside the 2020 Be Choose Cause Global Leaders Conference was synergistic. And it was created in direct response to the racial tension and unrest in our country, because our larger Global Leaders Conference is approaching multiple issues. And Janet and I discussed, and she's illuminated, that the thread has been inequity, whether it's climate emergency, healthy communities, human trafficking. Inequity is always found. And so while we have planned to discuss this for many, many, many months, we're also nimble and socially aware enough to understand that the racial equity conversation has to be elevated, because if we're going to unravel that thread of inequity, it starts here, and the national conversation and the national climate begs for it. It's time. My goodness, how much time do we have? I'm kidding. This is training and deployment to action. There are so many events happening that we support, and all voices are needed and all hands on deck. Both Janet and myself and our team noticed that there are a lot of conversations happening. And while the awareness level is important, there have been very few opportunities to bring together very specific communities that drive change or have incredible influence daily. So the forum brings together different pods, different sectors of people, and Janet can illuminate that for us. And we're not just having a conversation. This is a meeting of the minds. It may be some stepping on of some toes here, but it's going to be also a lot of hugs and a huge think tank to start to whiteboard, as I say, solutions as a collective. And then we connect with nonprofit organizations and head out to do the work over time as well.
Common refrains that I hear from leaders, and I believe everyone is a leader, first with themselves and then with others, is I see the issue, but it seems so big and so overwhelming. I don't know where to start. And that was the seed of an idea. If we could frame the conversation with each other with the intent that we're seeking out, what is it that I can contribute? Where are the places that my choices every single day could add to something being a little bit better? And that means we need to equip ourselves. So when you look at the people who are coming for the Racial Equity Forum, and frankly, for all 3 days of the conference, we specifically looked for people who are already working in new ways, working systemically, working at the root cause. Dr. James Pogue talking about unconscious bias. It's unconscious. So how in the heck are we supposed to get anything done if we can't get conscious? And that's what he's going to be speaking about. And Robin DiAngelo's work on right fragility was the first step, but where she's gone now is, what do white people need to learn about for the long haul? Because we're all in this together. This is not any one group's problem. And of course, Dr. Yusuf Salaam's work needs no introduction in really examining our legal system. And the whole pipeline from school to prison is just a travesty. And we got to stop talking about it and start talking with each other about what needs to change systemically. Ron Busby, who will be here from the National Black Chamber of Commerce for the United States, economic inequity is one of the worst things that we have systemically to address. And of course, that ripples off into representation in our government and educational access. So we essentially wanted to bring together people who know how to do the work, who are ready to have people behind them to drive that change, and to help people like you and me and Zakia realize every choice I make makes a difference. Make them wisely, make them consciously, and know that you're part of a global community of people who are like-minded and seeking the same thing. We're so much better together.
Certainly a positive, because to add value to something Janet shared, that we're in this together. And so growing up in the Deep South, loved going to church, but one of the phrases is preaching to the choir. That means often we talk to people who are already signed up and bought in to whatever it is we're discussing. And so one of the benefits of the Racial Equity Forum, but in a larger context, the benefit of having multiple voices, different backgrounds, different experiences at this table, is that we're starting to broaden the reach of the conversation. I find it to be very unfair that one group or the other is often pitted against itself, and also being tasked to solve the issues in a silo. So as a Black woman, that's no surprise, you can see me on screen, it's a bit daunting to be told to process trauma in my community, but also solve it. And then, not to speak on behalf of other races, but I've had those conversations, and Janet and I have had conversations with people in our community that as a white person, it's also daunting to say, hey, you may not know all of the ins and outs, but go fix it. So the finger pointing has been counterproductive, but also working in a silo has been very isolating, and it increases anxiety. And so this is the opportunity to sit down face to face and say, this is my experience and this is where I have access. What can I do in my lane? And that way, just like fingers on a hand, you can still hold that one mission, but each digit has a role. And that's what we're doing here. We're lifting this conversation and we're using our hands to do the work to move the needle, because it takes all of us in our own areas of influence. So that's the positive. Quickly, the barrier, gotta be honest, people are used to seeing and hearing from people that look like them. It's understandable. And we don't, blame anyone for that, but it's really important to understand that the time is now to not just broaden our horizons, but our mindsets and our internal circles so that we can make a greater external impact. And so that's why we have multiple faces, multiple voices. You will see yourself in the speakers, but ultimately all of us as humans being in this trying time will see that we all have a role and that we can drive change. Regardless of your position, you will find yourself here.
You've already done the first step by inviting us here to talk with you and to share this perspective. And I can already feel your excitement. And I think the next is to come with a beginner's mind. I know these issues have been around for a very long time, and we're just the latest generation facing them. I want it to be the last. I really do. So come with a mind that can open to hear something you've not heard before, and to let it tumble around inside of you and start to see what gets activated. There's a whole new audience of people, or another way to message it, or an opportunity that could be presented to bring people together that didn't know they could be together before. And your ability to express that into your community is priceless.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so very simply, www.racialequityforum.com to be part of expressing in this community, to Janet's point. And what's really exciting is that after joining us at racialequityforum.com and joining us Wednesday at the forum, the conversation and community is ongoing. We've created a communications hub so that after the event, often how many of us have attended conferences and then you forget what you learned and life keeps going. But we've created a communications hub so that people can join, continue the conversation, but also continue the idea sharing as we move forward into creating next best steps for everyone involved. And I have to say, there are people who are feeling overwhelmed. And that's something Janet mentioned earlier. So attending the forum, there's no pressure to solve it today. There's no pressure to give your idea right now. Sometimes listening is the very thing needed to create that spark that will ultimately create an incredible wildfire of positive change for us. So feel free to come listen and join the community hub and listen until you've been able to grow within yourself in your confidence. But that's what we're here for. We're in it for the long haul, racialequityforum.com, and then you'll be able to join the communications hub moving forward.